Hey, all my Sagittarius friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your June 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Sagittarius, I'm talking about Sagittarius rising. This is also applicable to Sagittarius sun and Sagittarius moon. If you have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Sagittarius, this video is also applicable for you. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. Let's jump in because the beginning of the month starts off with pretty easygoing aspects. We see quite a few trines and sextiles here, but what I want to start to focus in on is the trine between Pluto and Jupiter. Jupiter has entered your 7th house of contractual partnerships. And for the next year until June 9th, 2025, you're going to enjoy the expansion that Jupiter has to offer in your 7th house. Now, Jupiter is considered in detriment in Gemini, which means that it's in its furthest sign away from its home. And yet Jupiter is a foreign traveler who enjoys discovering new ideologies and philosophies and traditions and cultures. So here, Jupiter is getting to understand better the everyday life of a human and how they interact in there to make peace for themselves, harmony, to create a sense of cooperation within teamwork. I think this is going to be a very powerful year for you, Sagittarius, as this transit offers a lot of benefit, and then it will move into your 8th house where it is exalted. And that's going to bring in the potential for more resources financially. But let me go back. We see that Venus and the sun are in a conjunction. The sun at 11 degrees, Venus at 10 degrees. If we look at these two planets and we add the 1 degree of Jupiter and the trine to Pluto, this is very much screaming to me that there is an awareness that my thoughts are things. And as I become aware of that, and I start to implement the divine laws of the universe, concentrated thought, understanding that the laws of compensation, ebb and flow, then I feel like this is going to be a very favorable time. We see that we have a T-square, but it's not actually a square. And if there's a technical name, please forgive me, it slips my mind. But we see that there's a focal point here to Neptune, as Neptune is at 29 degrees of Pisces, making a sextile to Jupiter and even to Mercury here, and then a continued sextile for over the next 10 years with Pluto. This, to me, as Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn later this year, it's going to break up the old structures that have been inhibiting us and holding us back from feeling our expansion and our growth. So here, I believe that we start, those that have been seeking knowledge and in awareness of that they are co-creators on this planet are going to start to benefit from that during this 10-year period. Pluto is going to transit Aquarius for the next 20 years, which is your 3rd house. And here it's going to bring some sense of, I almost feel like, you know, as we age, we leave the home of our family and then we create our own homes. And for my Sagittarians, I almost feel like this is the potential of creating a really dreamy home for yourself as you implement the divine laws and you're aware of your thoughts are things. These ones, when you add them all up, they really represent the master number of thought. Anytime you see 3 or more ones together. Now, the little bit of the challenge at the beginning of the month is this conversation that Chiron has been having with Mars. Mars is the ruler of Aries and very strong in Aries. And this is a revisit of the wounds that we have endured, that our soul has experienced. And there's a potential that the wound is feeling a little unseen. Your own individuality is not celebrated. Aries is your 5th house of creation, of pleasure, of entertainment, of children, creating children, the conception of children, high school years. So there's a little bit of a challenge here, but this conversation has been going on since May. And when Mars transited over the North Node, and then, you know, when it was coming up on Chiron. So this is the backside of that conversation. Well, let's go to the 3rd, and we're going to see that Mercury has entered your 7th house. So now we've got a lot of activity going on in the house of partnerships. I really feel like there could potentially be a lot of social activity. For some reason, while the 7th house rules, intimate partnerships and business partnerships, this kind of has a little bit of a family feel to me, as if there's a lot going on as the summer begins. A lot of kids are out of school, so that might have something to do with it. We do see a bit of a challenge. Venus is in a little bit of a challenge here with the sun because she's combust here. And this could have her thinking over and over again about her value. And if she has the skills to birth what she wants, we see that these 2 planets are in a square over here to Saturn. Saturn is stationing to retrograde at the end of the month. It will move barely 2 degrees all month long, which really essentially puts Saturn standing in the sky. And here I think Saturn is really sort of standing with his hands on his hips saying, Sagittarius, what are you going to do with the information you've been garnishing about how you were raised, about your home life, about the idea of home and family, and what it is you want for yourself? Saturn is also calling forth a real energy of building a solid structure, sort of removing all the illusions and the fantasies that, things will miraculously get better without your participation. And your participation is your continued focus on what you want versus what you've experienced. So I think this is a very powerful time. We'll have on the 6th, we're going to have a new moon in Gemini, and that's happening at 5:37 a.m. And I think this is a lovely new moon. We see that Venus is now here joining the party. Now, this is where things feel a little bit different for me, because when we have a new moon, we have the sun and the moon coming together to plant the seeds in the darkness of night for something that we want. And here, this very much feels like Venus could potentially be talking about many things. She could be talking about her own skills and her own ability to create resources for herself. She could want a solid and more loving relationship or a more interactive relationship. But whatever it is that you as an individual Sagittarian want, this new moon is giving you an opportunity to partner with the divine as you endeavor this manifestation. I think it's supported by this Libra energy. Libra is your 11th house, and that is it makes me feel as if you have an opportunity to capitalize on some of your natural habits. The South Node represents natural habits. Lots of times people say they're bad habits or they're challenging habits, but here Libra naturally rules the 7th house, and this trine is happening to your personal 7th house. So I think that this is something that you can take advantage of. We do see a bit of a challenge with a 1.5 to Pluto, but that feels offset by the activity that's happening with Pluto's trine to Jupiter and now Mercury a little bit. But I'm rethinking my belief system. I'm willing to dig deep into where my fears lie or where I may not feel good enough and then plug through it. That's pretty much where I'm going with that idea. So I think this is going to be a really nice new moon. Now let's go on to the 9th, where Mars will enter Taurus. We see it here. I'm going to change the time back to 12 o'clock. We see that Mars has entered Taurus. And this is a very different feeling because the pace slows down quite a bit for Mars. There's this having to tend to the landscape, to look where I'm going. And this seems to be emphasized by the T-square that the moon is making to Mars right now. We see the square to Pluto, and then Pluto and the moon are in opposition. This could be an emotional day, or at least an emotional part of the midday, where something is coming up, and potentially it could represent a challenge, like some old history is showing up, something is being triggered about your personal value, and you're really having to be aware, like feel the reactive habit of reaction and then step into intentional thought and action. That's what Pluto is offering here, but it's not easy. And we see that the sun is making a direct square to Saturn, as is Venus still, and any minute now, Mercury is going to join that square. So this is a time where those squares for me are like forks in the road, where I have an awareness of where I want to go and what I want to do and what I want to be and what I want to experience, but I haven't done that yet. And then there are old habits that I can default to and sometimes even hide behind. I can't because. And that's where I think Mars's entry into its detriment becomes a bit of a challenge, because the feelings of anger or resentment could be more focused upon than the feelings of building with taking your time and pacing yourself as you're building something new for yourself. Taurus is your 6th house of work. And I think that a lot of the activity that's been going on for quite a while with Chiron and the North Node transiting your 5th house is calling forth for you to pace yourself into the expansion that is being offered by Jupiter. And I just heard the word collaboration. So there's a good potential that over the next year you could collaborate with others or collaborate with some sort of internet platform to create more resources for yourself. But it's going to be a little bit, this part of the day feels just a little bit challenging to me, as if I'm rubbing up against new and old at the same time. Let's go to the 12th. And through the 12th through the 17th, we're going to really feel this square between Mercury, the Sun, and Venus in varying, obviously the planets are in varying degrees, but as a collective, how I shine my light into the world, my partnerships, my resources, meaning money, etc., the way I think, it's all up for contemplation. This continued square to Saturn, as Saturn again is not even retrograde, but it is standing still, asking me to look a little bit deeper into the things that create a sense of peace, cooperation, connectedness. Do I feel them? Gemini is it's an extremely airy sign, but it's also very busy because it rules our everyday activities, as does Virgo. But these are the activities around our neighborhood, our community, what we think, the media that we saturate ourselves with. So there could become an awareness that certain things have become unpleasant or don't foster a sense of harmony inside of you. Sometimes people go on a media detox just to kind of recalibrate. I'm just using that as an example. All right. Now this is going to, as I said, going to last until about the 17th. And on the 17th, we're going to see Mercury and Venus move into Cancer. Cancer is your 8th house. And again, this is where, yes, the 8th house can rule death, taxes, astrology, sex, the occult. But for me, it feels like you're moving into an area where you can now expand your resources through other people's money, in the form of clients, in the form of customers, in the form of people who use your talents and gifts, and you make money from it. And again, you may be birthing things on the internet. You may be starting a podcast. You may see growth within your internet media platforms that you exercise. Wherever you create content, you could see expansion. Now, yes, there's still the square to Saturn, but I think that this square is now saying, how much do you want it? How much do you want to believe in yourself? And how much are you willing to emotionally stay in your lane of what you want versus all the chiming that could potentially be happening around you, meaning the chiming of other people's opinions or their queries of how will you do this and how will you do that and will it work out? And this is where the Venus and Mercury really get to step into that healing energy, that nurturing energy of Cancer, and keep my mind and my thoughts in the lane where I want to go. We do feel a little bit of tension on this day as well, because we see the moon in Scorpio is making an exact opposition to Mars. And then there's this loose square, T-square to Pluto. So again, there's this feeling of emotions coming up, things coming into your awareness, and an opportunity to behave or intend something different than you have before, something that's more aligned to an authenticity within you. Let's go to the 21st, where the sun will join Venus and Mercury in Cancer. And at 6:07 p.m., we're going to see a full moon. This is the first full moon. No, the second full moon. No, I'm sorry. The first full moon in Capricorn. We're going to have two. This is a really powerful one because it's also making a T-square to Neptune. We can see that. I don't know if you can tell, but let me just click on the sun. The sun and the moon are focused in on Neptune. Neptune is, will I escape? Will I hide? Will I stay in my illusions? Or will I implement the divine laws of the universe, what I know, what I've learned? And will I allow the illumination that this full moon is offering me to inspire me, to set me on a course of trust versus trepidation? I think this is really, really powerful. Back in Aries season in 2023, we had two full moons, I believe it was, in Aries, which set the moon cycle off. Now we're recalibrating that moon cycle with these two moons in Capricorn, two full moons. This full moon is illuminating a structure, a human structure that may not actually be supporting what I want to experience as a soul. And that's why the tension that the T-square and the focal point being Neptune is, most people don't think that the laws of attraction are all that powerful. Most people don't contemplate that the laws that run this universe have effect on our little everyday lives. And yet, if we paid attention to what our thoughts focus in on all the time, most people tend to jump up in the morning, check their emails, get their coffee, run their errands. This is what I got to do today. I think the transformation is, what will I be today? Meaning, what will my attitude be? What will my disposition be? What permissions will I give myself to dream a bigger dream of my own personal existence? Right now, we see that this wheel is with Sagittarius rising. So this is what your wheel naturally looks like. And this focal point is really on the cusp of the house of home, the fourth house, and the house of self-pleasure, and the house of self-expression. So I think this is going to be an illumination here for you. We also see that Venus is not far away from the sun here, but here she's being able to shine her own light a little bit more as she moves further away from the sun. Never far from the sun, but just a little further away. And let's go to the 29th. This is where we're going to see Saturn go retrograde. And I'm leaving it at 6:07 because it happens in the afternoon on that day. This is very powerful energy. Again, we're fortunate to see this. The wheel has stayed with Sagittarius rising. There's going to be a lot of review of your home life. And we can think of your family of origin, the point that created you. But at the same time, I feel like Saturn is also tasking you to look to the future home that you want to create, the future environment that you want to create. It sort of feels like Saturn is saying, how can I create balance for myself? This is the 19th degree, and it will retrograde all the way back to the 12th degree, which is the Piscean degree. So in those, 7 degrees, we're revisiting the first 7 houses of experience. I hope I didn't confuse you there. Because the lower half of the wheel is really more about the self and the soul walking through these experiences that develop the self. As we get up into the 7th house and up in the upper hemisphere, we're taking what we've learned in the lower hemisphere, and we're putting it up in the public eye. So I think this is pretty powerful, as it's really affecting these houses for you, 4, 5, and 6. So we will technically have Saturn retrograde until November 15th, 2024. So prepare yourself for it. Saturn will on some level may feel a little repressing or limiting, but at the same time, Saturn is really trying to help you to stay in the lane that is most authentic to you, which is why I believe that Saturn says, I don't care how you feel about the situation, because Saturn, like a good dad, says, I know that once you get past this point, you're going to be so excited that you achieved this, that you plowed through and you were triumphant. So I think this month is super powerful, as I think all the months are in these recent years. We are being given an opportunity to demonstrate concepts within the physical experience that are very familiar and natural when we are out of body. And that's what all this divine disruption has been about. One other note I want to say before I wrap this up is that for a wee bit of the time here, the moon moves very quickly, but the moon will have moved over on the day that Saturn goes retrograde over the North Node and Chiron. So part of this review may have to do with things that feel a little challenging and places that you feel you just really crave and have a strong ambition to see yourself as an individual, to move into a new direction, to feel like you're the driving the bus of your own life. This would be the North Node. And then Chiron really sort of bringing up that wound. And here at this particular time, 23 degrees is the Aquarian degree of rebelling potentially against that which does not serve me. To rebel against one's wound is to turn it into a gift, to say no to the wound and to say yes to whatever it is that is most authentic to you. So that's it for me for my Sagittariuses for June 2024. I want to thank you for listening to this video. If you liked it, please subscribe, please share, please comment. And I'll be back next month in July for your July 2024 monthly. Have a great June, everybody. We'll see you soon.